Okay, everybody, welcome. It's great to have EASA on our Knowledge Shared series. And so I just want to have a conversation about all the different things that EASA provides for its members and then the industry as a whole. So we'll start just by introducing ourselves. Go ahead.
Tom Bishop, a Senior Technical Support Specialist with EASA.
I'm Justin Hatfield. I'm the chair-elect of the Ad Hoc Committee on Emerging Technologies for EASA.
And I am Linda Rains. I am EASA's President and CEO.
Thank you all for being here. I think it's great to have the different viewpoints from everyone on the team. So I know you're right in the middle of EASA ReImagined. Can Linda, you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Not unlike many groups and associations, we were forced to cancel our annual convention and solutions expo that was scheduled in Nashville. And our goal always is to provide excellent content and networking capability where we can. And so we decided to convert, so to speak, as much of our content as possible into what we're calling Gain the Advantage, EASA 2020 Reimagined. So we're going to have a series of sessions, essentially, that we are offering to our members at no cost, given the current climate out there. And they are able to register any and all of their employees, and we're really tagging it as something for everyone. So most of our speakers that we had scheduled for Nashville are going to present at our on our virtual event. So we have management sessions, we have sales and marketing sessions, and of course we have our technical. So several members of our technical support team will be providing some content that way as well.
Yeah, I made a note here because I thought that was fascinating and something that people may not know. I think EASA, I think technical, I'm going to learn about motors. And the other side of that, though, is management and sales training. And I just thought that was a great way to, or a great point. You know, you can learn in personal development right now, too. So that's going to help you as an individual and also your businesses. So, you know, we'll start with technical. Tom, I'll bring you in on the technical side of EASA. You know, what can we look forward to for that event?
Okay, well, in terms of the technical content of what we're presenting during those programs, one of the things that I'll be presenting, kind of not to put myself first, but it is a report on our rewind study that we did on testing of motors to confirm whether or not efficiency could be maintained on the newer version of motors, what's called the premium efficiency here in North America and IE3 throughout most of the rest of the world. And of course, the good news for us is, you know, going into it, we didn't know what the outcome would be, but what we found was that, you know, we had positive results. So that's the essence of what I'll be talking about. And then our other technical support people, variety of topics, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. So
well, I jumped ahead, Tom. I didn't even let you introduce yourself. I've been doing that. Go, you know, just tell what you do there for EASA.
Okay. Well, as a technical support specialist, the role of what I do is to assist our membership throughout the world. We have members in nearly 70 countries. Wow. And when we say assist, they contact us primarily through emails, through the internet, you know, internet type access as well, what we call web contact. Also, even still today, faxes and still a lot of phone calls. And what we're doing is assisting the members when they have a technical problem. A lot of things that we do, again, using the advantages of electronic media, is things like when they have a failure analysis that they're looking for assistance with, they can email us photos of the failure. Sometimes they'll have something where if it's a motor making noise, they'll email us a video and you can hear the noise. So that's the kind of things that we get into. We also do a lot of assisting with them on when they're doing the rewinding work to make sure that the winding information that they have is the correct information. And if they need to change the characteristics of the motor, to provide them with what the new characteristics are going to be for maybe they need to increase the horsepower or change of voltage and so forth.
Well, it sounds like, Tom, that you are used to this digital technology, people sharing information back and forth. I didn't realize that we could use that data and diagnose the problem virtually, but we can. And so we've already been doing that. Justin, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I lead our committee on emerging technologies, or taking over, I guess I should say, that committee. I haven't led it for much. I'll be taking over. Would have switched over at the annual convention in Nashville, so we'll take over during the reimagined version now.
And you're a member of EASA, right?
Exactly. My company is a member of EASA, so I'm here as not only a member but also that position in that committee, which our committee is based around IoT offerings as well as IoT technologies happening, and it's amazing to see all the different things that our members are doing, different solutions, different offerings, and so we're kind of it's changing so quickly, and there's so many new solutions coming out all the time. We're trying to stay kind of in the know on different things that are happening out there, and really trying. Right now, our big focus is education, continuously educating our other members on what's going on out there, what other people are doing, and then really finding out where do we belong in all this. As this is changing, we're as service providers, which is the core EASA members. We're providing service related to motors, but we do so much. Typical EASAs do so much more than just motors as well, from pumps to so many other things, and IoT is becoming a big player there.
Yeah, I would think that you're like me, kind of excited that, not that we're stuck at home or anything, but that so many people have kind of been forced into learning how to communicate and understand this digital technology. It kind of explains, for me, social media and why we started that to connect people digitally. But for you, any type of connected, reliability type system that you have, it kind of took some people getting used to the idea of using it in a digital form. So anyway, have you seen like more people kind of reaching out to you lately?
Oh yeah, it's definitely been a lot of discussions, because when they're not allowed visitors in, it becomes complicated to get data off of machines and things like that. So there's definitely been a push. We've heard that from a variety of members on our last call. So we've been doing these Zoom meetings and virtual meetings as a committee all along. Right. We figured if we're emerging technologies, we better figure out how to do it in the newest technology that's available. So all of our meetings have been this. It's allowed us actually to meet much more frequently. So we've been, and with things changing so quickly, we need to meet frequently. So it's been great to be able to talk to people. And our committee, has members from all over the world. So we're talking to people from Europe, and things might be changing a little different over there, but than over here. But we're really starting to see, a lot of the same things across all of our membership.
That's amazing. I mean, I really, I started out trying to connect the global world, right? And to see this happening, we were on a call during one of our meetups lately, and it was, Brazil and Mexico on the call too. And I was just like, we are connecting the globe. This is great. And so it's good to hear y'all doing that. What is something that people, that maybe aren't attending conferences in the past or haven't, what can they learn from or obtain from this community? Linda, do you want to talk to that as far as the community of EASA?
Sure. Well, one of the things I'll mention, just following on to what Justin was discussing, that I think many people are aware of, but perhaps some of your audience isn't, is that the electromechanical repair industry has evolved so much in particularly the last 10 years. And even the last 5 years, but so they've been doing many of our members, if not most, have been doing predictive maintenance and that type of service, motor management, for quite a while. So the emerging technologies aspect of it, the IIoT, condition monitoring electronically and so forth, is really just kind of the next step in that process. And as like Justin, some of our members are really taking a look at that. And it's a matter of getting the message to the end user that this can really be a, don't just look at your motor or pump repair facility as only a motor and pump repair facility. They can often do a great deal more for you in terms of your reliability. And in terms of our community, we've done, particularly since this pandemic has besieged the world, we have done several webinars that are really designed to help our members kind of get through the process.
Yes, yes.
So, and not just technical. So we've had financial aspects and leading through crisis, things of that nature, where members had the opportunity to, ask questions during that time and afterward. Even during our EASA 2020 ReImagined event, where you would just anticipate it's just going to be a series of sessions, we will have an open technical forum. Mm-hmm. Typically at our in-person events, we get a lot of traction at our open discussions. People love those things. Our engineering team will be there with the ability to answer questions and direct questions to the audience, because we've got a lot of experts in our membership. We'll also have an open management forum. We did an open management forum kind of early in the process with this pandemic, and it was very well received. So it's just all part of it. Naturally, a lot of our events needed to be canceled because of all this. It's kind of hard to bring 2,500, 2,600 people together, and our chapters had to cancel their meetings as well. So that has definitely stymied some of the communication. But, I did a post in our LinkedIn and our Facebook, maybe a month or so ago, that I had heard from a member who I was just talking to him about something else, and we were discussing the fact that, who knows how all this is going to evolve. And his comment was he had contacted all the EASA members in his area, including his major competitor, and they agreed that, look, this is a tough time for everyone. If you need help with something, you call me, and if I need help with something, I'll call you. That is the essence of EASA right there.
Yeah, that is so great. And just knowing that our community can still get in touch with each other and come together, and knowing that you facilitated that for so long, and then they are going to continue that, no matter where we are, we can lean on each other. That's fabulous. Tom, I have a, comment, I guess. Linda had said that about a bunch of questions. You get a lot of questions and people kind of going back and forth answering these. What is a question that you get on a regular basis on your call-ins? I know this kind of I didn't prepare you for that, but it was just came to me like, what is the common question?
Yeah, well, not to be too technical or mundane, but probably the most common questions we have are members calling us to help them with making a change to a winding, not to change characteristics, but to change how the winding is made so that they can have a better ability, let's call it, to rewind it. That's one of the most common things that we get questions on. And another one is the failure analysis, where, and not just things like there might be a winding, electrical winding failure. Much more common actually are things like bearing failures, or a bent shaft, and mechanical type failures that will be assisting them again, through the looking at digital photos, sometimes videos, to assist them with. But again, overall, the probably the number one category of where we help members is with windings, in terms of, and it's predominantly your industrial or commercial type 3-phase motors. When I say that, sort of bigness may come out, but it could be anything from a little hold in your hand motor up to sometimes tens of thousands of horsepower. that we help them on, but the vast majority, it's what they call like a NEMA type frame, up to a few hundred horsepower, the most common ones that service centers get in for rewinding. And again, providing them with technical assistance to be able to make sure they have the right data that they took from the motor, and then help them when they have problems or questions to be able to put it back in such a way that, the ultimate goal is what we're trying to help the members with: two things: keeping motors efficient and making them as reliable, if not more reliable than what they were when they received them.
Yeah, and while you were talking, I was thinking about standards, and we hadn't really touched on standards or certifications. If I was going to, have a question on standards, of course I would come to you. But what does that look like? What is the next step in kind of that efficiency level of trainings and education?
Okay. What we have a standard for. It's actually, strictly speaking, it's a recommended practice for the repair of rotating electrical apparatus. And that's an American national standard. It's been an ANSI standard for nearly 2 decades now. And in that AR 100, as we call it, we describe a lot of steps to take in the process of repair. But the overarching theme is that they're good practice procedures that we divulge, give out to the members through that. I shouldn't just say through to the members. That AR 100 is a free download from our website, so we have that in there with all of those good practices. And some of those good practices are things that that we learned from some previous rewind studies, besides the one we're going to be talking about this year. Also, we do go back and reference and use as sources other national and international standards, like the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, the International Electrotechnical Commission, their standards documents to cull from them, to use from them, to put in, so that we can put out something that gives these good practices. Ideally, what we're trying to do is provide anyone who uses AR 100 with something that's really a best practice document. And like I say, it is an ANSI standard.
Very good. Thank you for explaining that to us. And I wanted to just touch, and for our audience that really care about pumps, I know I saw a lot of different sessions there on the lineup for the EASA ReImagined in June, why pumps fail. And so I thought that was just something I wanted to point out, because it's oftentimes not the pump, right? And so understanding the other reasons behind and making sure that our systems are efficient. Justin, you hadn't talked in a while. I'm curious on, what do you see as far as, emerging technology in this space? What's the next step?
I think it's going to be a continuation of what we're already seeing. Maybe a little more adoption of it. That more and more people, as we kind of talked earlier, that are going to kind of look at these technologies that are available and maybe utilize them, because not just the current situation of, hey, my my EASA member that's doing predictive maintenance for me can't come in and do it right now because we're not allowing visitors. But what about the next pandemic? What about if there's that resurgence of this in the future? All the unknowns is, hey, I got to protect my equipment in my plant from an end user standpoint. So maybe more adoption of the technologies that are available, and continued R&D into this. I mean, all of these, from big companies to tech startups, investing in different sensors and technologies. I just see that continuing. Could you see maybe a little bubble burst if with the current state of the economy? Could you see a few of these maybe not survive? I don't know, because if they're adopting more, then maybe those can continue to grow. But it's interesting to see. But there's new technologies. It seems like a lot of it's the same technology. Don't get me wrong. It's still stuff that's been around for a lot of years. It's just a new way of communicating it, or a new way of a newer battery technology, or the cost is coming down, so it can be adopted a little more.
Yeah, I was talking to Preston Wren on the podcast that we did. I think it was this week's podcast, and he talked about how the adoption of things, right? And so we are adopting at a faster rate just because people are using it. But the other thing is, we're essential services and equipment all the time. And so we do have to prepare for the future. It's not just about like the technology's there, it's been there. Me and Preston are laughing because we've been trying to get people to move in that direction, right? But now it's less costly to adopt these things. We're having these Zoom meetings and there's very low cost involved with that. But the more that we can get to, understanding that the people who have the data, they also need to understand the equipment. And so that's the key there, is to bring some of these IT people in, or OT. I heard that saying, operations technology. That was new to me. I always would call it IT, but anyway, we bring them in and teach them our industry. So back to your point, someone that comes in with new technology, they also need to know what a motor is, how they're connected, what is an efficient plant. And so I think that we'll see a lot more of that need for education, just like we needed to educate the mechanical and the electrical to be able to, bring motors and drives together too. So lots of fun things there. Linda, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, but that's exactly where the EASA membership can be of most value. They understand the systems, they understand the motors and the pumps and the generators and so forth. So you can have an IT person, but it would take quite an education for them to really understand. Mm-hmm. So having the member involved in the process, really, when they're examining the data, they understand what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point, bringing all those different players to the table, right? Similar to us today, right? We've got different views at the table or the screen here. So while we've been talking, is there anything that kind of came up that you wanted to bring up to the audience?
I think just kind of going where Linda just left off of, that's where EASA members are primed to help, because we do understand the equipment, but also remember that a big chunk of EASA members are in the control side and the automation side of things. And that, I think that helps with the communication aspect of these new sensors. They're getting data in and out of plants, and they have been for a lot of years. So, the IT side that you kind of mentioned, a lot of our members have been doing that for a lot of years, interfacing with IT in these companies. So not only do they know the actual equipment itself, but they've interfaced with IT, and they can help to make decisions off of whatever the sensor or technology that's being utilized tells them. And that really makes us primed to really help end users in these types of situations.
Yeah, just wonderful that we've been, all building these communities. I was listening to someone this week that, talked about was the Chris with our podcast that'll be released, Podfest. He brings together a community of podcasters, and he's like, well, it's not about that; it's about the niche, right? And so you brought a community together that care about equipment and maintaining efficiency and bringing those people together to learn, what's next in our industry. And I think it's great to have all of you, even being on this call today, leading the way. We joked on the podcast the other day, Linda, that we wish we had came up with EASA ReImagined. EASA, if anybody else used ReImagined, it's just not as good. And I thought that it was great. And just, I really do want to stress that, that technical management, sales training, leadership, it was just bringing our industry together with all of the tools that they need to learn during this time, and saying yes, right? And saying yes to joining us like we are today. Any closing remarks there that you wanted to bring up?
No, I just following on, Tom had talked about the fact that one of the frequent questions that we get is about failure analysis for our technical team. And, that speaks to the fact that our members are trying to determine, what's the root cause here, and how can we help our customer the best. And sometimes it's going to be a repair or a rewind, but sometimes our members understand that they're going to sell a new piece of equipment. So most of our members are distributors for motor manufacturers and, some pump manufacturers and so forth. So they can provide the entire solution. And oftentimes people don't realize that. And, many times they do, don't get me wrong, but, it's really being a total solution provider. And that's what our members have the capability to do and do day in and day out for about every industry that exists. I often say that, unless you worked in or for the electromechanical repair and sales industry, you wouldn't realize it was even around. Some people just don't realize that it exists, but our members serve just about every other industry there is.
Well, it's amazing. And I'm saying this over and over again. I just think about all the necessary work and all that goes into providing us water, providing us, food and energy. And, it is essential. And it is, education is what is going to keep us safe. It's going to be, what helps our equipment be reliable. I hope everybody will adapt this predictive mindset versus the reactive mindset. And so we're not putting people in danger, kind of in a reactive mode. But I think, moving forward, we've got the great associations out there like yourself that can educate us and give us the knowledge that we need. So I want to thank you for being on this call and starting this. Hopefully we'll do it again. We see how the June event goes too, but even before that, we can always get together and chat on what's next. Tom, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we sign off?
One thing I would add, just, in some of the things we were talking about, especially with what Justin said and what Linda said, but, like with the emerging technologies, I think if there's one of the there aren't many, but one of the bright lights about, the current, pandemic is I think there's going to be broader acceptance of newer technologies because people, if you need to go to the doctor now, the way you're doing it is you're doing it online, you're doing it virtual. And so I think that's a very positive thing. And one other thing in talking about like the things about like root cause failure analysis, a major part of that failure analysis you don't do within the service center. You have to collaborate and either go to the customer site or work with the customer to get more of the application information. So that's another benefit of this, I think, going forward is making more use of newer technologies to be more effective, not just in time and productivity, but to do it safely.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because we're making lemonade out of lemons, right? So we've got to make sure that we, look at these as an opportunity. What are we going to do next? How are we going to improve on our systems and our businesses? One of my favorite things about, being at home, I get to see my family, right? But the other thing is I get time to think. I would normally be on the road, traveling, seeing people. And it's amazing to find how much time I really spent traveling and what we can do with that time to innovate. And I think innovation is that word and having courage, because we have to have the courage to jump out there and do a digital or virtual conference. So thank you for that leadership, Linda. I'm following the lead there. We have a conference in October that we're going to, transform into a virtual conference just because I think we should and move it up in the schedule to show people they can do it, right? And so I look forward to seeing your event, and I know it's going to be great. And we already know that the knowledge there and your members provide are so important to our industry. So just thank you for that. Thank you for continuing to keep them together as a community, and all those EASA members out there that are connecting and helping each other. I thank them as well, right? So just great to have you guys here. I'm going to take a quick picture of everybody. So if you want to just, smile or wave or whatever, don't feel alone. I make all of the people do this. So it's great to have you there. All right.